Nigerians commit themselves to joining the change agenda of the new administration. On special assignment, legislature and organized labor in supporting the Buhari administration. Plus, a case for human rights violation tribunal. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on NTA Network News. I'm Cyril Stober. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Muhammad Buhari will soon move to the presidential villa after certain renovation work is completed. He spoke to journalists on this and ministerial nominations at the Defense House, Abuja. Correspondent Ismail Musa has details.
The presidential media aide said there are ongoing renovation work on different sections of the Aso Villa, though specified time for the completion of the project was not highlighted. The president, he said, will immediately move after the completion of work.
As it is at the moment, I'm not saying he's comfortable where he is in his rented house, but he's operating from there, and the moment the villa is ready, he will move.
On ministerial appointments, he had this to say.
It's not something that anybody will rush, because you know that the National Assembly will have to approve ministers. When are you going to have National Assembly in place? That's a big question. So even if he has a list today, when is the National Assembly going to vet his list?
Similarly, Garba Shehu said President Buhari is expected to travel to Chad and Niger Republic on Wednesday, where he will meet the presidents of the two neighboring countries for a crucial meeting on the security situation of the region. From the Defense House, Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And more reactions to the inaugural speech of President Muhammad Buhari are continuing, with Nigerians describing it as assuring, promising, and one which shows that the president has the interests of the people at heart. These were the views of guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria show. Oyeyemi Ajayi has the details.
Muhammad Buhari's speech during the presidential inauguration on May 29 is said to be one that captured a unified Nigeria with the acknowledgement of supremacy of the Constitution. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria stressed that the president's zeal to serve must also be imbibed by both the legislature and the judiciary.
We will see a new political system in which the president will act with independence that is expected of him.
We made it very clear that even in the process to which we are on now to having our leaders, he made it very clear that he is not going to interfere. It means that we have the free hand to elect our leaders in the National Assembly, who will carry their who will lead the legislative activity in the Senate and the lower chamber.
Insecurity, unemployment, inadequate power supply, and corruption were some of the challenges identified by the guests as frontline issues which the Buhari administration must tackle.
So the first thing is for the government to sit down to say, we are truly interested in dealing with all of these problems.
The need for local government autonomy was also stressed during the discussion.
A major source of corruption is the joint account, the local government joint account system. If you say very well you are having autonomy, and you are now having a limited autonomy to the local governments as compared to the state and the federal structure, why must the state, in fact, in particular, hold the local governments in contempt and they decide what they do with their money?
It is necessary for them to be given the necessary autonomy so that they can perform and do the bids of the people.
So the guests, however, admonished Nigerians to support the president. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
The presidential inaugural speech ordering the relocation of the Command and Control Center of the military to Maiduguri to tackle insurgency is generating reactions from Nigerians. Defense correspondent Mohammed Abdul Kadri spoke with stakeholders and experts on what it portends for the country.
Immediate is Boko Haram's insurgency, but victory cannot be achieved by building the command and control center in Abuja. The command center will be relocated to Maiduguri and remain until Boko Haram is completely subdued.
From a layman perspective, it is the Tri-Services headquarters that will relocate from Abuja to the hotspots of insurgency, while others are of the view that it is not.
Effectively, the command is structured in the military way. It is a hierarchy that is up to down.
I don't think, as a civilian or as a layman, that command center does not mean that the whole military hierarchy will move to Maiduguri.
Major General Abdullahi Mama described the position of the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces on the relocation as strategic.
So being there on the spot and then getting first-hand information, you take the immediate action that is required to deal with any given situation.
The consensus is that when the directive is finally carried out, it should enhance operational readiness and response time in containing the elements.
It's going to give the troops confidence. It's going to give the civilian populace confidence.
The interviewees, however, harp on the need to strengthen tactical and technical mechanism to subdue terrorism. In Abuja, Muhammad Abdel Kadri, NTA News.
Our apologies for the poor audio quality in parts of that report. The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, has ordered the ban on the use of sirens by unauthorized persons within the Federal Capital Territory. The order excludes the police, ambulances and fire service on emergencies and few authorized public office holders. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Emmanuel Ojukwu, said this is in view of recent security reports that suspected criminals now hide under the cover of official privileges and courtesies associated with the use of sirens to commit crimes. It advised citizens to immediately dismantle and remove all sirens and revolving lights from their vehicles, as any violator will be arrested and prosecuted. Now, this Monday is the first working day in office for President Muhammadu Buhari, who is leading the mantra of change in the nation's polity with his inauguration on Friday under the All Progressives Congress. Now, to capture how federal civil service workers are in tune with this, Adebola Brookslyn Sunday was at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja and reports they are resolved to support the new administration to achieve its campaign promises.
It is believed that the impact of first impression in virtually all circumstances remain evergreen in human memory. On the first working day in the life of the new dispensation, I am here at the Federal Secretariat to find out if there is change in workers' attitude. As early as 7:30 a.m., most workers from all areas of the Federal Capital Territory had arrived to resume work at the Secretariat.
Do what I'm expected to do and then avoid anything that will be against what the new government's idea is.
However, the challenge of traffic hold-up along the Maraba-Yanya axis has remained a source of concern to workers, including Emmanuel Karami, who is physically challenged.
Yes, that's the change I'm expecting, that they should start something on that road. We have been complaining because it affects almost everybody that is staying in that direction.
Our new president is a man of honor, a man with integrity. We are ready to work with him because soldiers go, soldiers come, we still remain.
I want to be updated because we actually desire a change. If corruption could be fight to a standstill, the government will run fine.
What we are doing now in this new government and with this new regime is that we have to double our efforts to make sure that people resume to their workplaces on time.
But for this change to be actualized, some of the workers say the leaders and the led must work together. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
Now, the inauguration of Muhammadu Buhari as the 5th elected president of Nigeria is seen by many as representing not just a change of government, but the emergence of a new social order with discipline, honesty, trust, and commitment to the common good. It is expected to be the cardinal principles of state policy. But how can the legislature, as a critical arm of government, key into the change of Nigeria project? National Assembly correspondent Adamu Sambu examines the unfolding scenario.
The legislature, without doubt, occupies a central role in a democratic framework.
The legislature has a responsibility for making laws, and that responsibility is critical to the survival and growth of any democracy.
Apart from gauging, collating, and presenting the views and needs of the people, the legislature also articulates public aspirations and expectations in determining national development agenda. Not only does it set the legal framework on which all legalities, it in fact lays the superstructure within which the executive derives development and governance. When it is said that the people deserve the government they get, it might as well be said that the legislature is that government being referred to in the first place. With the high expectations of Nigerians on the newly inaugurated Buhari administration, are there anything the parliamentarians can do differently, urgently, and in the spirit of change in support of the new social order?
I want the National Assembly to be the intellectual organ of the government. It should not allow the executive to do all the thinking. Nigeria has a challenge which everybody should face bipartisan.
Moving forward, what I expect the parliament to do is to key into the new government, pass laws that will aid the president to achieve these objectives of anti-corruption, addressing insurgency and all of that. This is the expectation of Nigerians.
Nigerians have the highest paid legislators in the world. People expect the National Assembly to be part of the sacrifice in national mending and to be more reasonable in terms of their personal emoluments.
The 8th Assembly, expected to work with the new president, is to be inaugurated on the 9th of June. So far, the National Assembly is believed to have risen above partisan and parochial considerations in addressing crucial national issues. The sustenance of this, in addition to upholding and defending the Constitution, will go a long way towards sustaining the nation's democracy. In Abuja, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Well, the role of organized labor in promoting good governance since independence is seen as crucial, with industrial harmony being a key factor in economic growth. In this special report, correspondent Emmanuel Aimi-Ro examines how labor and the new administration will tackle the challenges ahead.
During the 11th Delegates Conference of the Nigerian Labour Congress held February this year, President Muhammadu Buhari, then as a presidential candidate, was invited to present his manifestos to the representatives of workers. This was his assurance to workers.
We believe that the labor of our heroes past and present shall never be in vain.
Now that President Buhari has taken over the mantle of leadership amidst daunting challenges of poor infrastructure, massive unemployment, dwindling economy, among others, the labor leaders want the president to begin to look into issues affecting all Nigerians.
Good governance entails addressing the challenges of corruption, providing job opportunities for our teeming youth, and also providing quality services.
How will the trade unions work with the new administration in promoting industrial harmony?
We can't afford a situation where unions will be taken with levity. Legitimate demands of unions will be treated with levity.
The recurring scarcity of petroleum products is one huge challenge the new administration will have to address because of its negative impact on the economy and life itself.
The organized labor will be willing to assist the government to look into the affairs of the cabals and tell them Nigeria is bigger than them. So address the corruption in the oil industry after the attendance of the cleanup.
This fuel scarcity affected on most because that is the only way of having our own daily income. Because if there is no fuel, everything will stand still.
Lack of good governance has been identified as one major reason for the delivery of poor social services and low productivity. Elimination of corruption, labor leaders have argued, will make Nigeria overcome many problems confronting it. Emmanuel Aimi-Ro, NTA News.
In the meantime, the Muslim Media Watch Group has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to abolish the monetization policy in the public service in order to give credence to his policy of prudent management of the nation's financial resources. In a statement signed by its coordinator, Alhaji Abdullahi Ibrahim, The group argued that the retention of government quotas and official vehicles is far cheaper than paying millions of naira yearly as monetization to top government functionaries who probably will spend just 4 years in office. The Muslim Media Watch Group also called for a downward review of the pay of federal legislators, adding that they should not be involved in the implementation of constituency projects. The group further called for the abolition of the law providing for a joint account between states and local governments and the strengthening of the anti-graft institutions. On fuel crisis, the Muslim Media Watch Group called for the establishment of more refineries by the federal government and private sector managers, as well as the maintenance of existing ones, in order to stop the fuel subsidy regime. And the Civil Society Organization Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to go a step further by publicly declaring his assets as promised in his election campaign. The CDD director, Idayat Hassan, made the call in Abuja at the formal launch of Buhari Meter, a tool for measuring government's performance. Correspondent Edino Justice has the details.
The Buhari Meter, according to the CDD director, Idayat Hassan, will use 3 approaches: web-based applications, media, and on-the-spot checks of projects and programs to measure government performances in line with their campaign promises. She noted that after 16 years of democracy in Nigeria, time has come for the citizens to not only participate at election time, but to also be involved in decision-making processes.
It is designed to monitor, track, report on, and create awareness among citizens about the status of implementation of promises made by the new government during the electioneering period.
We have the privilege of being in a position to make sure that this whole change we've heard so much about can be something meaningful to all of us.
If he publicly declares his assets, we see that of course he's coming with our open hands. Then there is what they call managing expenses.
Governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, commended President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita for the stability in his country, Mali, saying Kaduna will emulate the leadership style despite religious differences. The Malian president has since left for his country. In Kaduna, Muhammad Lawal Baba, NTA News.
The peaceful democratic transition from a ruling political party to an opposition party has been described as a brilliant step for the future of democracy in sub-Saharan Africa. This was the thrust of discussions at the inaugural edition of the annual Democracy Day public lecture in Ottawa, Canada. Joy Osiagu reports.
In collaboration with the Institute of African Studies, Carleton University, Canada, analyzed the topic African Democratic Transition, Nigeria as a tipping point. Guest lecturer Professor Bola Akinterewa says Nigeria is permanently on record to always have a situation. He explains why Nigeria cannot but be a tipping point.
Nigeria remains a model from the perspective that when the international community expects that A will be the answer, Nigeria has always given B as another option.
Happened in Nigeria is also a victory for the People's Democratic Party.
From now on, Afro-pessimism should now give way to Afro-optimism, because Nigeria has pulled itself together, and from now on, we are entitled to be called the resilient nation, and by extension, the continent can also be called the resilient continent, because we have all shown strength in broken places.
The consensus at the lecture is that the surest way of promoting democracy is by encouraging continuous research. From Carleton University, Canada, Joy Usiagu, NTA News.
And still ahead, 5 months after, courts open in Ondo State. The details after these messages.
Nothing feels better than having stuff made just for you, like the MTN Super Saver Plus.
This special plan gets me. It treats me like royalty.
And roaming? This plan allows you to receive calls and SMS for free in more countries.
When they ask me why I love MTN Super